The Tragic Case of Michael Jackson. June 25, 2009. The world stood still as news broke that Michael Jackson, the king of pop, had died at just 50 years old. He was on the verge of his comeback, the This Is It tour that would have let his children Prince, Paris, and Blanket finally see their father perform live. But instead of a triumphant return, we got a tragedy that shook the entire planet. If you look up his death today, you'll see it listed as cardiac arrest caused by acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication. Sounds like a simple drug overdose, right? But the thing is that it wasn't about addiction in the way most people think. The real story of what happened that night is far more complicated and honestly, far more heartbreaking. So what really happened to Michael Jackson? And more importantly, could his life have been saved? Let's break it down. The beginning of the pain. Something that most people don't realize is that Michael Jackson spent most of his adult life in actual physical pain. And it all started way back in 1984. Imagine that, Michael's filming a Pepsi commercial, pyrotechnics go off, and suddenly his hair is literally on fire. He suffered second and third degree burns to his scalp and body that night. That's when he first got introduced to pain medication and the world of plastic surgery to deal with the burns. The injury was so severe that he needed reconstructive scalp surgeries over the years. Each surgery meant more recovery time, more pain, and inevitably more medication to manage it all. But it gets worse. Fast forward to 1999. Michael's performing on stage when an aerial platform malfunctions and he plunges 50 feet to the ground. The fall permanently damaged his spine. After that show, he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital where doctors put him on serious painkillers. From that moment on, chronic back pain became his constant companion. And so did the medication. This wasn't someone looking to get high. This was someone desperate to function, to move, to perform, despite a body that was breaking down. If you're finding this story as fascinating as we are, hit that subscribe button. Trust us, you don't want to miss what comes next because this is where everything starts falling apart. The insomnia that haunted him. The pain was bad enough, but Michael had another demon he was fighting. Severe insomnia. We're not talking about tossing and turning for a few hours. This man would go 3, 4, even 5 days straight without sleep. The stress of his life, combined with the pain, made rest impossible. Imagine trying to sleep when your back is screaming at you and the pressure of being the world's biggest entertainer is crushing down on your shoulders. The only thing that could knock him out? Propofol, a powerful sedative that anesthesiologists use during surgeries. Michael was so used to sleeping under propofol that he gave it a nickname. He called it his milk because the substance looks exactly like milk. Think about that for a second. He needed surgical-grade anesthesia just to get some sleep. That's how far things had gone. The comeback that never was. Early 2009 rolls around and Michael signs a huge contract with AEG to do a series of concerts in London called This Is It. The first show was set for July. Rehearsals started in late April at the Staples Center. The demand was insane. Tickets sold out so fast they kept adding more dates. 50 shows total. That's 50 nights of peak performance expected from a man who hadn't toured in over a decade. Michael hadn't done full-scale live performances in over 10 years. Suddenly, he's expected to dance, sing, keep up with the band, work with the production crew for hours and hours, 5 or 6 days a week. The schedule was brutal, and Michael was 50 years old with a body that had been through decades of punishment. To stay sharp and functional, Michael needed good sleep. To deal with his back pain, he needed more than that. His solution? His old friends propofol and benzodiazepine. But things get tricky. Administering drugs like propofol isn't as easy as popping pills. You need a medical professional. So as part of his deal with AEG, Michael requested a personal physician. They hired Dr. Conrad Murray, a doctor who had known Michael for years and definitely knew about his special medical needs. The deadly routine. Almost every night after rehearsals, this is what would happen. Michael would leave the Staples Center and head back to his LA home at 100 North Carrollwood Drive. Dr. Murray would be waiting there. They even converted one of the bedrooms into a makeshift medical room. Every single night, Dr. Murray was putting Michael under anesthesia at home, without proper medical equipment. The kind of equipment that's absolutely crucial for what they were doing. Here's how propofol works. The doctor gives a small initial dose to make the patient fall asleep. Then they need to maintain the concentration in the patient's blood, usually through a drip, otherwise the sleep won't last long. After the initial dose, Dr. Murray would put Michael on an IV drip. continuously delivering small amounts to keep him under. Sounds straightforward, right? Except it's not. It's incredibly dangerous. Any hospital or surgical center uses monitors, ventilators, emergency equipment. They had none of that, just a bedroom, a doctor, and a desperate man trying to rest. The night everything went wrong. June 25, 2009 started like any other night. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. Dr. Murray administered the usual small dose of propofol and set up the drip. But the critical part most people don't understand is that when you're using strong sedatives like propofol, the patient's reaction can be completely unpredictable. There's mild sedation, moderate sedation, and deep sedation. In mild or moderate sedation, your brain still controls your breathing, but in deep sedation, your brain can no longer handle that basic function. You need ventilation equipment to keep breathing. And the scary part is, the line between moderate and deep sedation is razor thin. Propofol is notorious for pushing people into deep sedation without warning. That night, Michael's body reacted differently. He slipped into deep sedation, and because there was no equipment monitoring his heart rate and pulse, there was no alarm to alert Dr. Murray. In what has to be the worst timing possible, Dr. Murray left the room for a few minutes, right when Michael basically stopped breathing. In medical terms, he had respiratory arrest. The fatal mistakes. At this point, Michael could have still been saved. He'd stopped breathing, but what he really needed was simple: oxygen. That's it. But Dr. Murray wasn't prepared for this. When he came back and realized something was wrong, he made a catastrophic error. He thought Michael was having cardiac arrest, a heart problem, not respiratory arrest. So he started doing CPR, which was completely counterproductive to what Michael actually needed. Even worse, he didn't call 911 immediately. By the time qualified medical help arrived, it was too late to save Michael Jackson's life. The paramedics got the call at 12:21 p.m., but by 2:26 p.m., Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. Later, Dr. Murray tried to claim that he only gave Michael the initial dose to help him fall asleep, and that Michael put himself on the drip while Murray was out making a phone call. The court and jury didn't buy that story. In 2011, Dr. Murray was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in prison. The uncomfortable truth. Michael Jackson's condition wasn't a secret to the people around him. His close circle of business partners knew. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. Did anyone really try to help him? He could have been sent to rehab. Someone could have stepped in. But at the end of the day, a Michael Jackson performing live, even while operating on drugs, was more profitable than a Michael Jackson in rehab fixing his addiction. That's the harsh reality. The machine around him needed him performing, not healing. The tour was already sold out. Millions of dollars were on the line, and the expectations were sky high. The legacy left behind. Michael Jackson's death sent shockwaves across the entire planet. His memorial service at the Staples Center was watched by an estimated 2.5 billion people worldwide. Think about that number. That's roughly 1/3 of everyone on Earth at the time. The outpouring was unprecedented. Websites crashed. MTV went back to playing music videos. The internet couldn't handle the traffic. Because love him or question him, Michael Jackson had touched millions of lives through his music. This is the story of how the King of Pop died. Not from addiction in the traditional sense, but from a system that failed him, from people who should have protected him, and from the impossible pressure of being the biggest entertainer on the planet. If this story moved you, or opened your eyes to something you didn't know, smash that like button and subscribe. Michael's story deserves to be told accurately, and we're here to bring you the truth behind the headlines. And hey, if you want to dive into more music history that might surprise you, check out our video What Everyone Gets Wrong About These Famous Songs. You'll see your favorite tracks in a completely different light. Keep the journey going.